This is the Digital Marketing Experts Podcast episode. No, why am I trying to sound like a radio announcer? Experts in the Wire, episode 93. Thibault. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 93 of Experts on the Wire. We're approaching 100. On today's episode, you're going to learn how to earn supplementary links a little bit on autopilot with your own stock photo library. You also learn how to get your own free stock photo library up and running in about less than 60 minutes, and how to do all this without like an expensive, fancy camera. And I'm really interested to learn all about this from my guest, Thibault, today on today's show. And also, stay tuned for about the middle of this episode where I'm going to incorporate BuzzSumo probably more natively than I ever had in any ad spot on the show before. I'm actually going to give Jay some ideas for how to use BuzzSumo to take this strategy even a little bit further. So why don't we jump right in with today's guest, Thibault. Jay, how are you today?
I'm doing great. And yourself, Dan?
I am excellent. Thank you so much for joining me on today's show. I have to say, you sent me this post, and I think you were just sharing it for fun because you know that I like photography as well. And then I saw it and I said, this is exactly the type of thing I like to talk about with guests in this podcast. It's sort of this unique strategy that I think can be applied in a lot of different ways. So for the listeners out there, we're going to be talking specifically about creating a stock photo library. But keep in mind, as we talk, you can apply this to music, to video production, to even something that I did on drift.com where I gave them audio files of me reading their posts. So as we're talking through this, this is not just for photography. It can be applied to any digital medium. So, Jay, let's jump right in. I'm curious. I want to just start. We're going to go back to your background in just a moment, but can you name a few of the sites that you've received some of these links from for your photos?
They're random. They're all over the map. They could be like a entertainment weekly from the Philippines, poetry sites on Blogspot, City of Vancouver public sites, which was a nice ranking domain. It's random. And that's why it can't really be duplicated. So. And
you mentioned in the post, how many links a month do you get on average for the stock photos?
I get between 2 and 5 links a month because I haven't pushed it extremely hard. I haven't done the marketing thing to it.
Right. And that's 2 to 5 links a month with very little effort. As you've just said, it's sort of semi on autopilot, which we're going to talk about. And Jay, let's jump a little bit back to your background for just a moment. Then we'll talk about in the details for how to do all this stuff. So you work with Massive Kontent. Is this your company? Is this an agency? What is Massive Kontent?
It's a very, very tiny agency that's basically me and my wife. And we just started about a year and a bit ago. So we're in the infancy right now. My background is, it's interesting, actually. I was working a desk job in an office for well over a decade, and I had infinite amounts of free time because I was left alone. So I spent that time learning digital marketing. And at the same time, I was trying to get a small comic book company off the ground. So we published back in the mid 2000s a couple of graphic novels, ran them through the entire comic distribution system of North America, UK, and I had to learn social marketing like quickly. In those days, it was MySpace. Facebook wasn't a thing. So we quickly figured out the MySpace ecosystem, and that's where we built up thousands of followers. And then that fizzled out, like that crashed and burned, but I developed a love for digital marketing in the meantime.
It's very funny. This is the first time we're ever speaking, and there's 2 similarities in your story to my story. The company that I run is with my wife, and I started getting into SEO and digital marketing because of trying to solve my own problems of trying to find piano students. When I moved to this area 10 years ago, I had no work, and I used SEO and Craigslist actually to build up my piano studio. So it's kind of cool how you solved your own problem with it first, and then that led to what you're doing now. So tell me a little bit about your day-to-day. Are you working with clients, or are you creating content? What does your day-to-day look like?
I'm working with clients. I'm going through the first year, so I'm still finessing my offer, like trying to get the ideal who I want to work with, but it's getting better every month, especially by publishing these long posts. So I did like a few local SEO gigs to start, like as one does.
Yes.
But that fizzles out pretty quickly. You can't really make a go of it with that micro level of business. But now I'm starting to get contacted about content promotion because I write about that, and I feel you should put about 45 to 55% of your effort into the promotion as a creation. But we do the creation full service from strategy to producing to marketing it.
Excellent. So let's dive in and chat about this building up a stock photo library. So first, give us the summary of this process. What are we basically doing? Where do these photos go? And then how does that end up generating links?
Okay, well, first of all, I give this entire concept kudos. I give the originator credit here, Ross Hudgens and Andrew Dennis when he was with Siege Media. And what they did is they had an insurance client, I believe, and they wanted to find every weapon at their disposal to get more links. And this insurance company had a deposit of professionally taken photos.
Right.
Which Ross said, just put them on Flickr under Creative Commons. No watermark on them whatsoever. So I read that, and then I emailed Andrew, and he clarified a few points to me. So then last summer, July of 2017, I took my first 100 photos, put them up on Flickr. Flickr is the site you want to deal with. That's the most powerful photo syndication site on the web, especially when you assign it a Creative Commons attribution license. There's 6 different licenses, and it's the attribution one you're dealing with here.
Sure.
Now, in order for this to work, you have to give up all worries about where the photo is going to end up, how it's going to end up. There's no control over it after that.
Right.
But that's the power of it. It goes everywhere. In the description box of of each individual Flickr photo, you put it so that you want link attribution to whatever site you're dealing with, whatever site you're trying to get links to. So you do that. You set it all up. I started off with about 100. You got to let it sit for 2, 3, 4 weeks to start. This is a patience game. You can't push it, and then wait. Then you have you go out and you look for your images online, and there's you could do manual search in TinEye or Google Images, but what I found was Pixie, pixsy.com is the easiest way to keep track of your images, and they have a free account for up to 500 images. And most people that try this technique, that'll be fine for them.
Yes.
And what Pixie does is it was invented actually to go out and find pirated photos online. Like pro photographers were having their images stolen everywhere, so they wanted a quick way to recover, send cease and desist, or try to get money back for them. For our purposes, we don't need any of that. We just need the pure image recognition engine that goes out and searches for things. It's not fast. You'll have to wait a few weeks. It only updates every couple of weeks, and you also have to keep resynchronizing your Flickr account with Pixie. But it works. Like every few weeks, you'll get an email pop in your inbox. Here's seven instances where your photos have been found, and then you'll go out and hunt them down. And if it's a blog or if it's just a regular site, you'll go and dig up the contact info, and you'll contact the webmaster, and you'll nicely, very kindly request a link for them to switch the Flickr link out to your site, and you'll have like a 70 or 80% success rate because you're in the right. You're being incredibly polite. They already want your image to use it, and I've only been turned down once where instead of switching out the link, they just switched out the photo to another Creative Commons photo.
I see. That's great. And we're going to get into the weeds and the details on all this stuff. So why don't we go back to the very beginning of this strategy? And so it sounds like you've done well with this so far. Let's go back to the very beginning. First, I want to ask you about how many photos have you posted in your stock library? I want to give the listeners an idea of about, are we talking 5 photos, 10 photos? Does it not matter? Is it as many as possible? How many have you posted?
I'm up to about 550 now. I put up one, just like on Instagram, I update almost the same way on Flickr. I put up another photo or two. So about 7 a week.
Okay.
I just keep it going. And because they're kind of artsy, moody black and white photos, like they're not stock photos. They get used in weird places. They get used like to emphasize a point. Whereas if you put your, marketer or creative hat on, you could do virtually anything. Like if you have a golf site, you could go out and shoot 1,000 photos of techniques, go like everything that had to do with golf, just to use a generic example.
Make a golf.
I didn't do that. I didn't go that way. So there's people out there that could take this strategy and 10x it.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the photos themselves. So I think you mentioned that you only use a smartphone or a GoPro for these photos. Is that right?
That's right.
So anybody out there listening, you don't need so I have 2 fancy expensive cameras sitting right next to me, but you don't need that. You're just using an iPhone or an Android. What device are you using?
I'm using a Samsung S7 and a GoPro Hero 5, and that is in Adobe Lightroom. You've seen the photos, the extreme black and white contrast, whatever. But beyond, $10 a month for Adobe Lightroom on your phone or on your computer. And anything from probably an S6 up or an iPhone 6 or 5 up, you're fine. You're like, the web doesn't need more. As long as the photo's good, as long as it's clear and crisp, it doesn't need more than that. You don't need 24 megapixel photos.
So when you're actually shooting the photos, are you doing anything special with a camera or using a camera app or the native app? Or are you paying attention to lighting? Like what exactly are you doing for the photos themselves?
Yeah, if I'm looking for sharp shadows, I'm at, the magic hours of like right after 8 or whatever in the morning. And then, 2 hours before sunset at night or whenever whenever shadow, because I deal with black and white almost like 95%. So it's all about light and dark. Other than that, nope, just the phone, no attached lenses on top, and the GoPro, same, just default setting.
And
in fact, there's probably also 5 times more you could be doing with that. But I don't.
And so in the post, you talk about 6 types of photos that work well for these stock photo libraries. So I want to chat about that and then ask you talk a little bit about when to take these photos, which I think is great too. But talk me through these 6 types of photos if you have your post right in front of you. Because I think this is good because there's certain photos that wouldn't work for a stock photo library. Like obviously personal photos of your family reunion, like that's not going to make for good stock photography, or maybe it would if it looks like strangers or whatnot. But talk me through these 6 types of photos that work well.
Yeah, you want to be careful. I mean, you don't want to put your friends up or anyone really that's recognizable in these photos. You don't have permission to use them. I mean, if you're going to start shooting people, they almost by default become models. Like there would have to be contracts involved. So I stick with mainly landscape, buildings, architecture. If there's events going on in your city, if you want to be quick out the door, like if your city's setting up some sort of event for like 2 weeks and they're going to run it, you want to be like in the first 12 hours, go out there, get all the photos, get them posted, get them tagged and described properly. For events, fireworks are kind of generic. So, but like your local weekly online paper, which has replaced almost all the weekly papers, are going to be looking for images to go with their article because they have to update these events every year. So if you want to be out in front of that, that's an easy way if you're a local play to get links.
So if you can be kind of fast and timely, events might be good. What about for things that might be a little more evergreen? What types of subjects work well in those photos?
Well, no matter what city you're in or town or where you're visiting, go capture an interesting and well-composed photo of all the landmarks.
Yeah. What?
Get all the usual suspects of wherever you're at. Just go online, look them up. What are the 20 things I need to, capture a photo of?
In Boston, for example, I might take a picture of the State House, or I might go to Beacon Hill and take a picture of a cute street in Beacon Hill. Now, I do some photography, as you know, so I have an idea of what makes something interesting and well composed, but real briefly for the listener out there, maybe somebody that does just want to go around with their smartphone, kind of build up the library for themselves. If they haven't had a lot of photo taking experience, what's a few simple things that make a well composed photo?
Rule of thirds. So you want the horizon line behind you, either a third from the top or a third from the bottom, or unless you're being incredibly artistic and put it dead in the center.
Right.
You want the sun behind you. You want lots of light flooding in on more light is better than less light because you can play with it afterwards.
And you mentioned earlier on something about, I think, golden hours. So what is that exactly? Because this is prime time to take a photo because it almost always looks good no matter what you take if it's golden.
That's right. So the sun, after sunrise, about an hour or so, an hour and a half after that, the sun is at a very sharp angle, casting shadows in one direction. A different kind of golden hue, as I discovered when waking up at sunset in Hawaii there last year. Very different. And then sunset. So say the sun's going down at 7 o'clock, get out there at 4 o'clock or 4:30. Actually, between like 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock around that time, there's all kinds of interesting, very sharp angles. You'll even see with your naked eye, like everything looks sharper.
Yeah, so really, the couple hours leading up to sunset, you're going to get a nice angled sunlight. So, and I'm glad you mentioned the rule of thirds. That's the number one thing to tell anybody wanting to take a well-composed photo.
One more thing, if it doesn't look interesting from where you're standing, sidle over 2 feet in either direction, or just move, change your angle. Or lower yourself, crouch down. Yeah.
One tip I can give too is, and this takes some practice getting used to, but look at the edges of your composition, because unless you want to crop it, you'll notice like a trash can or a person like right in the top right corner. So like take a quick notice of the edges, because we often look towards the middle and forget to look around the edges to make sure there's nothing like, standing out that shouldn't be there. You also mentioned taking photos of actions, and I like this one. So one activity you mentioned is surfing. What are some other actions, and why do these work well for a stock photo library?
It might. Okay, now here we're getting in. I lived by Vancouver there for 16 years before I moved back here to Montreal. So we saw not surfers, but skimboarders all the time. Mm-hmm. So it was easy to get a nice blurry. You don't have to worry about faces being in the photo. Everything's obscured. It's a cool action shot. Same with sports. If you could, you might, gain an advantage if you could convince a friend just to work on your behalf to take all the like stress, anxiety, like everything you see in all the stock photos, but do a different sort of creative take on it. The full understanding that they're going to be out there everywhere, like all around the planet online. But
so instead of having those typical, the three guys in a suit sitting around a conference table, you could create your own versions of those, but make them look much less stockish.
Exactly. And people will use them. They will, if they find them, if you tag them properly or put the good descriptor on them, Creative Commons will make sure that it shows. It'll unearth.
I like that a lot. So, okay. So we've talked about, we can use our iPhone or a GoPro or a cheap camera for this. We've talked about some ideas of what to shoot. And like you said, people can get creative, and I'm already thinking of other ideas of things that I could go out there and shoot photos of, but now we're collecting our photos. You mentioned a little bit about doing some light editing to these before we post them. So what was the app again that you mentioned?
Adobe Lightroom, or you can use Adobe Photoshop. There's plenty of free photo apps out there. I'm not extremely familiar with them, but I know they're $5 or $10 and they'll do the job. And
I believe Google Snapseed is free, and it's a very good editor. And even the Instagram editor is pretty good. If you edit something, you can save it as a draft and then just take a screenshot of it. So what types of little edits are you making are these like big complicated edits, or are we just kind of cleaning them up a little? What are you kind of doing to them before you post them?
I'm cropping, like I'm always cutting stuff out of the edges, as you mentioned before. Yes, you try to do that as much as possible in camera, but you're always going to have to go do it afterwards in your editing software. Mm-hmm. Then I do incredible amounts of monochrome, like black and white stuff. So I have the contrast, and there's never enough contrast in my photos.
So you can add some contrast. You desaturate. Could you make them black and white? Cropping is a good idea. What about any considerations for, should we be thinking about a certain pixel size, a certain file size, compression, any of that sort of technical stuff for the photos?
Yes. I mean, whatever of the day, whatever your screen size. So 1920, I tend to go, I default at 2250. I don't know how I came up with that number, but my photos are 2250 wide. Okay. And however tall, depending on whether it's portrait or landscape, that doesn't matter.
And like you said, these all just end up in a blog post or something, so they're never going to display bigger than even 700 pixels in most cases. And so, okay, so we've shot the photos, we've done some light editing. Now let's talk a little bit about Flickr and setting up your account there. How does that work? And I know, and you put in your post, and a lot of people are thinking like, why are they talking about Flickr? Isn't this from like 10 years ago? Flickr is still something active and alive, and you're finding obviously it's working?
Yeah, it apparently it still receives about 8 to 10 million photos a day.
Wow.
Your photos look better on Flickr than anywhere else on the web. Like your mind will be blown when you finally get a few photos up there and you look at your photo stream. It blows Instagram and everything else out of the water because compression isn't such a huge deal there.
Right.
And you can put as big as you want. You could have it 4, 5, 6,000 megapixels across. Now you got to name your account intelligently. Like it can't be too spammy sounding because you're dealing with people. Like people are going to be, especially people are going to be using your photos. So you can't call it, insurance, homeowner insurance company, whatever. It's got to be something clever and something easy for you to go search because that name is going to be key for you going to hunt down because Pixie won't get everything and Google Images won't get everything and Bing Images won't get everything. So sometimes just the name, which it'll be underneath either in the footer of the website or right under the photo or at the bottom of a blog post.
And what is the name of your Flickr page, by the way?
Sorry?
The name of your Flickr page.
Massive Kontent. So that was easy. Massive Kontent with a K. So that was
I'm searching for it right now as we're chatting. Yeah. And also, by the way, I did just put Flickr into SEMrush. And even though it looks like they were hit with a traffic issue maybe 3 years ago or so, they're still getting 2.2 million visits a month. And that's SEMrush. So we know that's a little sampled. So it's probably more than that.
Yeah, Flickr will claim 10 or 20 million, but yeah.
Right. And I'm sure a lot of that's branded and whatnot, but the point is there's a lot of volume in traffic just from Google searches going to Flickr.
It's a DA 98 site still, whatever that's worth. It's top 400, visited site on the planet. And I mean, it's no Instagram, it's no Pinterest, but for getting your photo out there across the universe, it's the number one game in town.
So in terms of setting up the account, naming it is, I see your profile name is your name, and then the URL is Massive Kontent. So you're kind of getting both in there. People can see that you're an actual human being. I think you said that's important. Are there any other major considerations when setting up your account? Things that we should know in terms of the basic setup?
It's pretty intuitive. You could almost even just click on any other random specifically pro user's account. There's usually a pro in the corner and just see how they've done it.
Do you need a pro account to do this strategy?
No, you do not. I ended up, after using it for a few months, I decided to have more fun. I wanted to go, the SEO in us, I wanted to go deeper into the analytics itself on the photos. So just for fun, I signed up for a $5 a month pro account, but you absolutely do not need a pro account. I didn't use one for the first 6 months and it still worked fine.
That's actually really cheap. I mean, it's like a cup of coffee, a cup of Starbucks,
to put up a terabyte worth of
that's a really good price. And so let's talk a little bit about, we've got our photos, we're setting up the account. Now let's talk a little bit about how the syndication works and the Creative Commons. So you've got all this very well detailed in the post, but tell the listeners how do you set this up at the account level or per individual photo, and then what's the exact settings we need to be doing?
Well, the good thing about Flickr is that you can set it to, if you're just going to use this account for just Creative Commons syndication, you can set it up right at the account level. So automatically you could upload 30 or 40 photos. They're all going to have that attribution layered onto them once you've clicked that in your settings. As for tags, because tags are important, you have up to 75 tags, so even 45 more than hashtags in Instagram. So
75 tags per photo.
Per photo. So I generally use about 25, 30 if I can.
And we're using tags because people are actually going to Flickr and searching for photos, and that's how they're finding your stock photos. Is that right?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes they'll put searches into Creative Commons search boxes. Your photos are going to show up in different image search engines, which I didn't even know existed until I started doing this.
Yeah, CompFight, for example, is one Flickr search engine I use a lot. Jumping on a quick tangent, tagging. I know on Instagram, what I try to do is if I just tag it hashtag Boston, that's almost a wasted tag. It's going to get lost, right? So I try to be very specific, do Boston MA, or in Instagram, I'll find like IG Boston, very specific tags that don't have too many posts, but not too few. What's the tagging strategy in Flickr?
You're going to go in both directions. You're going to put Boston, Massachusetts, and then you're going to go more granular, as granular as you want. You've got 75 tags, so you can have fun in both directions, mass media and niche, extremely.
So you find people are finding, in Instagram, the hashtags are they're very fluent, right? It's like a feed. So if you posted hashtag Boston and it's gone in a minute, people have missed it. In Flickr, do you find it's more evergreen where people could find it months later?
Yes, I posted a photo of, I want to say 3 weeks ago, of 3 old cameras that my wife and I have in our collection. That's going to be found for the next 9 years. Like, it's not going anywhere. It's forever. And because by putting your photos like licensing it with attribution, you've got you're 10 times more likely to keep reaping benefits for months and months and years. And like I said, you'll be surprised where you see your photo show up. You have the fun thing, and I mean, SEOs don't like this because there's no control over it, but I think it's kind of the fun thing. It's the wild card. You have no idea.
Right. But that's great. And one thing I love that I'm hearing about Flickr that I didn't totally realize is how it's a discovery channel in itself. That's why I love YouTube, is because you can be discovered inside of YouTube. You don't need to promote from the outside. It sounds like Flickr works in a very similar way.
Flickr has this thing called Flickr Explore, and it's not a human. It's an AI. It's a piece of software they wrote, and it puts 500 to 800 new photos into the Explore page every day.
Wow.
I've read a long blog post as to how to get into this Explorer. This doesn't affect anything about your syndication. Your photo could just have 10 views on it in 10 years, and someone will still find it and use it if they need it. This is just more about the Flickr ecosystem. Mm-hmm. But if you, I've landed in Explorer sometimes like twice a month, but I've landed in Explorer like half a dozen times at least, and all of a sudden your views shoot up from like 100 a day up to like 6,000, because now anyone that hits that page will stumble across your photo.
Wow. So now that we landed on this, any quick little tips for how to get an Explorer? I'll link to your post too, by the way. But
yeah, upload your photo by itself. Don't upload it in a group. Don't upload it in a group of photos. Like, don't put it in 20. Just upload it single. Don't add it to any groups until the next day or two. Leave it alone. If you're friends with a few hundred people on Flickr, just start liking their photos so they'll come back and like yours. Just a little bit of engagement on your photo, and then mainly it just has to be interesting. Like, I have no idea. It's a machine that's discovering this, so no idea. But I just know that almost none of my GoPro photos are showing up in Explorer, but all just on my phone, because they're very sharp. And
yes, Interesting. So one thing I noticed, you mentioned going and liking people's photos. You have a few hundred followers and are following a few hundred people. Do you find is it important to try to grow your following in Flickr? Does that apply to this at all, or can you have 0 followers and still
you could upload as long as you discover all your tags. Like, for instance, if it's say a set of 100 photos and they're all within the same theme, just intelligently choose your tags, like 30 or 50 tags, apply them all to every photo, intelligently title them, put your descriptor with your attribution license where you want it to go and all that, and then walk away. Never look at it if that's what you want to do. If you want this to be completely passive, once and done, walk away, except for once a month, go and hunt down your photos, or let Pixie hunt down your photos.
That's great. We're going to talk about how to do that in a moment. So I want to close the loop on the attribution. What is the exact type of attribution we should be choosing in order to make this happen?
I believe it's just called attribution, because there's attribution with some tag-ons on there. It's just attribution out of the 6 possibilities.
Yeah, and the post...
It's just what it's called. I thought it was called 4.0 or something like that, but it's not. It's just attribution, which means people can take, remix, add to, use commercially, whatever they want, but they have to provide credit back to you. They
have to do it with credit, right? Because there's one Creative Commons that you can use it without attribution. Is that right?
Yes, like Unsplash looked attractive at first. The site Unsplash that's a site where you could take photos from there and do whatever you want. They're beautiful. Professional photographers upload photos there, and you don't have to. They would like you to give attribution, especially back to the profile on Unsplash, but it's not necessary. So sites like Unsplash and Pexels and other sites like that, although they look neat, and you might be able to get like one link from your Unsplash profile or Pexels profile back to your site, it doesn't work for this.
Right.
People are just going to take the photos and they'll never have to link. So
that's an important point I want the listeners to get is you need that attribution requirement. That's like, that's the final thing that seals the deal on this entire process. It's why people will link to you. And you can't use any, or there's one other attribution you could use, but it's just going to make your life complicated. So yeah, it's that attribution out of the 6 licenses. I want to mention here too, you posted a shot where you're getting 2,000 to 3,000 views a day on all of your photos in Flickr. Has it gone up since then?
No, only when I land and explore. That's because I put my photos into 90 groups a day. If I take a photo, I add it to 90 groups. Can you add, so you're adding photos to groups. Now, can you add these to groups that are not, like, what is a group and how do you add it to a group? Okay, there's groups for every subject matter under the sun. Like I'm in part of like 7 Montreal groups. I just came back from a weekend in New York, so I joined 4 New York groups. It just neatly ties them into the ecosystem of Flickr via human curated groups. I see. Some of them even have to approve your photos to let them in. So okay, so a group is sort of it's like any group on the web, and it's anybody can add their photos there once you're approved and a part of the group. That's right. So on a free Flickr account, you're allowed to add each photo to 30 groups. And a pro account, you're allowed to add to 60 groups. But a little tip here is back about 6 months ago, little loophole, you could add your photos to hundreds of groups. So many of us did. I used to add my photos to 400 or 500 groups just because, as the marketer, SEO, whatever, you like to sometimes push things as far as they can go. And there was no blowback, but all of a sudden Flickr decided they had it. So they put those hard limits on free and pro accounts. Yeah. But the little workaround was through being in 500 groups, if the group needs to approve your photo, like it just sits in the queue while being approved, that's not counted as your 30 or 60 groups. So interesting. So I found by testing and throwing photos into all kinds of groups, I found 30 or 40 groups that you need to pass by the human curator. So I get them into 90 groups on average. And then what is geolocation? That all has to do, you could do it manually, but if you have geolocator set up on your phone, on your DSLR, your GoPro even has a GPS on it, it ought to just leave it on there. It automatically, that carries through. So when you upload the photo through Flickr, it picks up, I guess, the EXIF data and it loads it in and it automatically places it on the map and it tells you what location you took it in. Otherwise, you can manually go in and try to add it to Flickr's map. And I imagine sometimes it sticks, but I found sometimes it doesn't stick. So this must help get the photo found in Flickr, I imagine. Yeah. People looking for this is a good local SEO play, which if you want to get into now or we can get into later. But with the geolocator, for local SEO, on your own site, it's been said, it's a smart idea to have the GPS coordinates on photos on your own site. It's a minor ranking factor, but you can do the same thing. You could, if you're trying to get passive links back to one of your local clients, then instead of your site, you're doing it on behalf of one of your clients, you would just go around town or get them to go around town and take all those important photos to be taken inside that town. That's excellent. So I'm going to talk about a few ideas I had and then tie that into BuzzSumo in a moment. But just to sort of sum this all up, so by taking the photos, creating a Flickr account, posting them in Flickr, is that largely the way that people are finding the photos to then use with attribution is within Flickr, or are they ending up in Google and places that people are also finding the photos? I would say it's probably 90, maybe even 95% just Google Creative Commons searches, nothing to do with Flickr.
Oh, okay.
It's just the power of Flickr behind it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, no, this is just people doing image searches in Google and Bing and wherever.
Oh, that's great. So in a moment, I do want to talk about how you're getting these links to your website, because these pictures are on Flickr. So I want to connect that up. But I had an idea, and one of the things I was so excited about this concept was I've been thinking lately that another link building strategy would be to find a great piece of content out there that has a terrible image, and sort of in a bespoke way offer an image or offer an infographic or offer, like I did with Drift, offer an audio version of their post. So my approach and my idea here, which I'm going to talk about for a minute, is not so much about just posting it and waiting for people to find it, but doing this proactively. And so you can actually use BuzzSumo to do this method. And so, Jay, I don't know have you used BuzzSumo before?
I have played around with it. So I'm not an active subscriber, but I do love it. Yeah.
I'll be sort of pretending I'm teaching this to you, but all the listeners as well. So here's what you can try. And this is my idea. I have not tried this, but I really strongly think it'll work. Is you go to BuzzSumo, and let's say you have a photo, catalog of like you have architecture, I have architecture, city landscapes, things like that. Photos that might do well on like a B2B blog or even a personal blog that those photos would fit in nicely. You go to BuzzSumo, and the BuzzSumo is the way to find these sites that you can be pitching your photos to. So you go to BuzzSumo and you can search something like productivity and put it in quotes and put it in BuzzSumo. And you're going to get the most shared blog posts about productivity in the last year or the last 2 years or 5 years, whatever you set it to. I did this, and I found a blog on a website called paymaya.com, and their blog is stories.paymaya.com. Never heard of the site, never seen it. I think it has a domain authority of like 45 or something. It's pretty good. I clicked on it. I noticed that they post a lot about travel and different locations. And I think this site is a good target because they're not a big site like Inc.com or Entrepreneur that you're never going to, get a hold of somebody. And that's a losing battle, right? And it's going to be no followed in many cases. What you're looking for are these more, smaller publishers or even bloggers where you can reach out with a high quality photo that has a high likelihood of them wanting to accept it and use it with attribution. So that's one method. But then the second method is even a little bit more advanced. So let's say I have a lot of pictures of Boston, for example. You go to BuzzSumo, you search Boston in quotes, and then there's some filters in there that work really well. So I just noticed, I think they just added a filter for large publishers or non-large publishers. And part of this tactic is you're not going to win with entrepreneur.com or with Huffington Post or anything like that. They're not even going to reply to you. So you can use the non-large publisher filter, and you can also filter for B2B sites and content types like how-to articles, infographics. So you can play with these filters to find the exact right type of content and or website that you can proactively reach out to with your photos. So for example, I found a site called kid101.com, and they have an article that's the most scenic Boston restaurants. And I checked, and a few of the photos in this article are not great at all. In fact, they're terrible. They're blurry, they're pixelated, they're kind of unclear, they're kind of dark. So this approach might be offering them better photos for an existing post that already has photos. And then I found another post on venturefizz.com called "Why Boston Will Be a Star in the AI Revolution." They had no photo at all. And in fact, that entire site had a lot of blog posts with no photos that you could proactively reach out to. So, Jay, I'm curious, as I'm talking through this strategy, do you think being more proactive is a good approach as well? Could this work?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And down the road, I think I'm probably going to transcribe what you just said, add it as a new section when I update this massive blog post, and give you full credit back to your back to you. But yeah, absolutely. And I've got a third thing I want to add to that, which I haven't even tried yet.
Yeah.
I get a lot of eyeballs on my Instagram page. Now, it does nothing for my business or whatever, but I get, thousands of views a day or a week. So what I'm going to do is provide a direct pipeline. Right now, I'm linking to some random post on my website from Instagram. I'm going to make a special, not post, but page on my site talking about free stock photos and how you can use them. I'm going to put an offer somewhere in the middle of it where I'm going to tell people, I'm dealing 95% with black and white photos, but if you have an idea or you want maybe a color version of this photo, if it takes me less than 10 or 15 minutes to just go in, swap it out for you. Now, once again, this is an inbound thing. I'm not being as aggressive as what you're saying, but it's just I'm going to keep layering new things on top of this.
That's a great
idea. Yes, absolutely. Your idea would work, and it has worked.
And before I forget to mention, I should plug the sponsor code. So BuzzSumo is the sponsor. Go to buzzsumo.com and enter the discount code DANSHURE, DANSHURE, for 30% off 3 months. And you save about $75. 30% off 3 months of BuzzSumo. And
you're the only guy that has that deal in town, right?
I am. Yeah, you've heard me say that. I believe I am. I don't think they sponsor or promote themselves like that anywhere else. So exclusive discount code. I had two other quick ideas for this proactive method. One is I just went to Google and I searched Boston recruiter, and I landed on michaelpage.com. He's a recruiter in Boston, and he has an ugly banner stock photo of some lady in an office or something. And so if I wanted to be proactive here, I could reach out to this person ranking highly. That's probably getting a lot of traffic. And as we all now know in SEO, the higher trafficked the page the link is on, the more valuable that link is, probably most likely. So that's one other method. And then here's a little bit of what I think is, I don't know, tell me if this is clever. I patted myself on the back and thought this was clever. You could take a stock photo, like any stock photo that you see all over the web, and reverse image search that, and then look for all the websites that are using that stock photo. And those are sites you can reach out to with better photos as well. So you're actually just finding sites that use these ubiquitous, terrible stock photos as a filtering way to find sites to reach out to as well. I thought that was pretty clever, right? Because
that is. Yeah, you're using infographic marketing techniques on photos, and yeah, it works. There's such a huge need, obviously. With all the photos being taken from Unsplash and Pexels and Creative Commons and Flickr, there's a monstrous need. I feel bad for the professional photographers out there, but I don't think we're taking business away from them.
So I've talked a lot. I'm going to turn the floor back over to you now. So we've created this great database. It's on Flickr. We're posting to it. But now you actually have to go out and find the people that have used your photos and make sure you get attribution to those. So let's talk through how to find the photos and then how the link ends up pointing to your website and not Flickr. So first, how do you actually go find the images of yours that have been used?
Okay, so I was doing it the hard way before. I was just going on Flickr, digging out the source code of the actual image location, the URL of the physical JPEG, plugging that into reverse image searches in TinEye and Google Images. And that was working. It was taking a long time, but it was working. I put a few hours a month into that. And then I stumbled across the site Pixie. And what they'll allow you to do is you sign up, free account, and you can synchronize your Flickr account. I think you can even synchronize your Instagram account, but you can synchronize your Flickr account with them. It'll take a while, and then it will upload the entire stock into there. It may even give you some matches right away. It might even give you some photos that have been matched 10 or 12 times. Now, it's going to give you every single match that exists. So it's going to be on all the scraper image sites like FlickRiver and Hive and all that. But it'll give you some interesting use cases. You'll find foreign sites that have used this. You're going to have to think twice and three times before you approach them, and Google Translate's your friend.
Right. So how often do you find people are correctly attributing and linking to your domain? When
0% of the time.
So this is
always fair is fair. They've probably just quickly looked it up in Google, not on Flickr. They've probably never even seen my description. And usually, sometimes they'll switch it out, especially if you're contacting the webmaster, they'll switch it out in 30 minutes.
Yeah. So it sounds like in about 100% of the time, you have to do the work, find the images people have used and reach out to them.
Now I've had a real estate agent in Vancouver that's used a couple of my photos. So now when they put up a new photo, the link is correct right away.
So you've actually sort of developed a relationship with this real estate agent, and now they're looking at you as a resource. So that's interesting too, because, and I like to think of all marketing in this way if possible. It's not one and done, right? You've turned this into a renewable resource.
Yeah.
So when you find the photos of yours that people are using, how do you go about reaching out to them and making sure they attribute you?
First, I go, if it's a blog, like a media publication, first I'll check out who wrote the piece, but then I'll sometimes go to the web equivalent of their masthead and see if there's an editor or even a submission email. Mm-hmm. And I'll go in and usually I'll find the right person, or I'll CC two other people on the email. And but once again, I've got a template I use, like very kind, I write them telling them, I'm extremely gratified that you've used my photo. I love seeing my work used around the web. Could you please swap out the link from the Flickr to massivekontent.com as detailed out in the attribution license text. Yeah, and I send them links to I send them the link to the page, a link to the photo on Flickr. I do all the work for them. So as soon as they, there's no question. And you're in the right when you're approaching them, but you're approaching them incredibly politely. And
so one important point I want to highlight there is you're finding the right person to reach out to, because oftentimes the writer could be an outsourced writer or even a ghost writer with a byline, and they're not the right person to contact at all. No. Do you have any tricks or hints for finding the right person or email address when you're looking?
I usually just go to the contact or submission page. Sometimes they have, like, if there's a write for us page, that's going to be the people you want to talk to, the editors. It's always going to be the editor or webmaster. So, yeah, I mean, in a few cases, the writer of the post will be the person you contact, but yeah, most times it's the contact or yeah.
And so when you're writing to them, you're simply just giving them. Are you copy and pasting the attribution requirements? How are you communicating to them that it's actually required they link to your site? Do you just tell them and they get it? Or
no, I've never had to go that aggressive. I've just linked to the Flickr, the exact Flickr photo, which has it right underneath it. It's all there in black and white. But yeah, I've never had to, no sort of menacing, threatening tone.
And I think you might have mentioned your success rate with this, or if not, what is the success rate?
About 80 to 85%.
And that's crazy, because when you think about most link outreach success rate numbers, we might be talking 5%, 10% if you're really, really lucky and really good at it. So you've already got your foot, 90% in the door when you're doing it this way. You mentioned international sites and foreign language sites, and you have a cool screenshot here where you're actually using Google Translate to translate an outreach email. Is this something you've done and this has worked as well?
Yes, in French, because Google Translate works extremely well from English to French. You just have to make sure the text of your email in English is the most basic. Don't get too flowery with your text. Keep it simple. And the URLs all those obviously translate 100%. So, it works.
Now is probably a good time to interject with something I did want to bring up. I remember when I shared your post on Twitter, there was like one or two people that said, "Oh, well, these links, they're not worth anything, or they don't do anything, or they don't help you." And I'm wondering if you can put into context about how this is a supplementary link acquisition strategy, and how this might fit into your overall link acquisition strategy.
Well, they fall somewhere. How would you think them? Okay, if you're doing infographic building, that would be a little more probably within the theme. So that would be more direct than photo linking. They definitely rate better than, like, say, scraped links. Like when sites scrape very popular sites that are linking to you, and those become just duplicate links. They're better than that. Mm-hmm. They're not contextual, because usually they're at the very bottom of the page. So it falls within the realm of like an author box link. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, if you're lucky, it's right under the photo, like in the caption almost.
Right.
I've lucked out like that a couple of times.
Yeah, and I mean,
but they're like, I mean, they're not, the randomness I think would help you like as a good mix. And sometimes they're not followed links, like no followed links, which is good. 80% of the time they're followed, but the no followed part actually helps you. So, and
it does diversify, like you said, your link profile. It can help outweigh over optimize anchor text, or it can help outweigh links that are skewing all to one type of link that you're getting otherwise. So I think it's good in that sense. And also, the reason I get excited about this strategy in general is it's something that I call sawdust. And other marketers have used this as well. It's like you've got these photos sitting around anyways in many cases. I know I do. I have thousands of photos just sitting around, and it sounds like you do as well. And it's something that you can, it doesn't take a lot of extra time to accumulate this asset that can provide links for you. And so now might be a good time to ask, so like, suggest to the listeners times to think about when they can actually be taking these photos. Do you have to go out?
If you're out at a outdoor free concert or even a paid concert, I think in 2018, I think all performers are getting used to photos being taken of them because every single audience member has a phone. So they're not going to clamp down on them too hard. So anytime you've made a point to get out of the city and go somewhere nice, like in nature or just a place, like a specific destination, take a photo. Even the restaurant you're at, maybe they want to use that photo eventually. So
yeah, you mentioned
specific locations, because in your description box in Flickr, when you put it up, you can put the address and postal code in there. Like just say this is where this was taken. Put it in the title.
Yeah, you even mentioned an example of like taking a picture of somebody pouring coffee, for example, is a great little type of photo. So, and that's part of my point too, is like, we're not saying to go spend an extra 30 hours a week or something doing this. It's using time and resources and things that you probably are already doing in some cases, or that you have at your disposal to incorporate into your link acquisition strategy in general. And I think there's probably a way, like you said, if you get creative, to think about how to tie this into your industry. So for example, there's no reason why when I go to my next SEO conference, I can't take photos of that and then use those and then get links back to my site. And that's a contextual link. So I think you can think along the lines of your industry as well.
I'll get a little meta with you, an example with you here. Sure. You had Wes Walls on as a guest last year from Montreal. So I clued into that. I went out and messaged him, went out to meet him for beers. The walk over to meet him for beers over in the Plateau area of Montreal, I saw a beautiful wall mural. I pulled out my phone, took a photo of it, thought nothing of it, put it back in my pocket, went and introduced myself to Wes, had a good night with him. That photo is the one that ended up in the Filipino news media site, weekly site.
Wow.
Because they wanted examples of wall art all around the world.
And I love how I'm hearing that podcast listeners and guests are meeting each other. I had 2 other listeners meet in Dublin, I think, and they told me about that. So that stuff's great. You mentioned 5 types of sites to skip over, to not even try. What are these 5 types of sites that you should not even really bother with?
Okay, well, number 1, the thing that's going to keep showing up in your searches are Weebly sites, which is the other alternative to Squarespace. Weebly has an image search function. Like you build it's a site builder. You get your site up and running in like 8 minutes, and you can search through their database of images for your banner photo, your hero photo at the top, and sometimes your footer photo, photos for your blog, your posts. And within that image search, they have the Creative Commons, so they pull in all those. So yeah, I found dozens of cases of my photos being used. You can't approach them. I've tried. I thought I was all excited the first time I found one. Yeah. It was like an animal vet site. I had photos of kittens in there. I contacted them, and they're like, and then you automatically. Now the good thing is your Flickr account automatically gets pulled into the footer of every Weebly site that uses those. It's automatic attribution, so you're getting second tier links, followed, no followed. So through that, you'll get hundreds and thousands of second tier links back to your Flickr account, which is cool, I guess. But the reason people use Weebly is they don't know code. They're not going to be able to go in the footer and change it. I don't even know if they could. I don't think they even have access to that.
That's a great point.
So, yes, you'll avoid Weebly. There's going to be, if you're in a major, first or second tier city, there's going to be bus tour sites that will pull in photos from either your vacation photos, they'll pull in your local city photos. You can't do any. I've naively approached them. They're not going to change them. They don't even respond to those messages.
You mentioned like Travel Advisor or Map Carta. These are some easy
Tour by Transit. Actually, they sound like Travel Advisor, but they're even like third CB Z-less sites, travel sites.
And then you mentioned
you'll have no luck with those sites like WordNick, which are like Pictionary sites, like where they'll have a definition of a word and then they'll have like 20 photos underneath to sort of emphasize that word. They'll just link back to your Flickr site. You're not going to get a backlink. It'd be nice because they're DA75 sites or whatever. That's just it's not going to happen.
Right. So make sure to ignore those. And I'll link to your post, obviously, in the show notes at evolvingseo.com/wire. And there's a nice chart you have there. People can check that out. So you also have a little heading here at the bottom that just says re-indexing pages that have placed your link. What does that mean exactly?
Okay.
What are we doing there?
I was spending a good amount of time at Traffic Think Tank, the Slack group run by Nick Eubanks and Matt Barbie, awesome place. And I asked Ian Howells, because he has experience with these sort of things. Once a site swaps out your link, what do I do?
Right.
Do I ping it? Do I do any? He said, Ian said, do not do any spammy stuff. Just tweet it out. Or in my case, I use Google Plus because it would be weird for me to tweet out these random things on my very specific Twitter profiles. Yeah. So I just use Google Plus because it doesn't matter.
So that's getting Google to recrawl and then update their index for that.
He specifically said, don't do anything hacky or tacky like fetching that page again in Google. Don't bother with stuff like that. Just send it like a minor social signal.
Yeah.
It'll eventually get recalled probably anyways if it's a good page. But
so make it look natural. And that's something to keep in mind. I had somebody reach out to me a few days ago saying, well, I've gotten all these links. We haven't seen any benefit yet. And you have to keep in mind that you need to, the page you got the link from needs to be crawled and cached and indexed and updated to the version with your link on it. So that's something people should keep in mind as well. Saving a few minutes at the end here, you have a few ideas for taking this even further. I have a few myself as well, I think, bouncing around my head. But what are some ideas? So we've talked about like taking your own photos, building up Flickr, making sure that you're getting attribution. This whole strategy, top to bottom, is great. I love it in so many ways. But what are some other ideas for the listeners to take this even further or even in a different direction?
I believe there's a huge Pinterest play here, which I have not layered on yet. Pinterest, they're extremely active, like 10 times Flickr, or they're fanatic there. I would do a deep dive into learning the Pinterest ecosystem, join boards, get your photos on those boards, pin other, obviously do the whole engagement thing. Now, you don't want to spend 3 hours a day for this passive link building tactic, but definitely I can't see how Pinterest wouldn't help once you've got a few months in and you're joining these communities.
Do you think Pinterest works in the same way where people then find the photos in Google, or is your sense people are going to find the photos in Pinterest and then use them?
No, I think it's going to be all Google. I mean, there might be a minor group of people that'll find it in Pinterest and use it, but no, I think it's always going to be the big search engines.
One little SEMrush hack I'm going to throw in here is if you go to SEMrush and put Pinterest.com as the domain and then run a keyword filter for the keyword ideas, you're going to find a whole ton of Pinterest pages ranking because they optimize in their title for ideas, DIY bedroom ideas or something. And you can use this in one of two ways. One is that's where you want to pin your photo because you're going to get found in Google. So you can use SEMrush to find the pages in Pinterest that are ranking in Google. Or if you are not doing the strategy at all, that's something where you can build a piece of content because you could probably, in some cases, outrank Pinterest with a piece of content because oftentimes Google just ranks Pinterest because they don't know what else to rank because there's nothing else there. So little content marketing tip there. You also mentioned, I guess I'll pull out one other idea from your list at the bottom here, which is adding Instagram to the mix. You mentioned this before as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna build a pipeline or funnel, whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna build a pipeline from Instagram into this page I'm gonna build on my own business site, and just to see what happens.
And so my familiarity with Instagram is that this is much more of a closed ecosystem. So are you thinking you're gonna use Instagram to get people to discover you, go to your bio, click on Flickr, and end up on your Flickr?
That's right. I'm going to test it out. I'm going to put, you only have X amount of characters in your bio to use, and you don't want to use it all for this, but I'm going to say most photos available for reuse under CC 4.0 attribution, see here, and then that'll be my one, you get your one link, that'll be it. I think I'm going to test that for a couple of months and just see what happens.
That's great. So one quick aside question I want to ask before we wrap things up here. I noticed on massivekontent.com, you're the one that did the great curated list of the TechSEO Boost content.
That is me.
Yeah. So if anybody listening is not familiar, I had Paul Shapiro on the show, I think at the end of 2017. He ran this great event in Boston, which I sadly did not go to. I'm 45 minutes away. I have to go to this next year. But it was a technical SEO conference he ran through the company he works with. And Jay, you curated the best sort of curation of all the videos, the links, the content, and the talks from that conference. So I want to mention this number one, so all the listeners can go to massivekontent.com with a K and look for the Tech SEO Boost 2017 post. But I wanted to ask you, where did the idea to curate all the content from this conference come from?
Well, we've been watching in our space, a marketing space, people take notes, and there's a billion posts to go up like that. But the website originally was like just the whole 8-hour conference was one video. So I sat there refreshing every day. It's like, when are they going to split it up? When are the SlideShare presentations going to go up? And then I stopped looking, and then they went up. So I missed it by a week. But I don't know. What gave me the idea, it seemed like it needed to be, I thought Catalyst would do it, and they did. Catalyst did put all the videos into one space. I got a feeling maybe they'll do it if they hold the conference again, they'll do the actual definitive post of 2018.
Yeah, I hope so.
Because that did quite well for me.
Yeah, I saw it got over 400 shares and maybe got you some links, and I'm sure it got a lot of people to notice your site.
Well, you got me some shares when you shared it out. What I did also, someone had built an API for Tech Boost 27. I forget what the hashtag was, but someone built an API. So there was a Google sheet that kept repopulating every minute with the new tweets. So I combed all 950 tweets for like the good nuggets. And it was mainly just 3 people just taking, maniacally taking notes throughout the whole thing. So
and I like this, and I brought it up to share the post, but also to share with the listeners that this is a great way to add value in any industry. So if you're paying attention closely to an audience or an industry, and you're seeing a conference happen, and you're like, oh, it'd be great to have a curated list. For example, you could take any, I hate to use the word influencer, but anybody that creates a lot of content or has a lot of influence, like for example, Rand Fishkin at Moz, or a Gary Vaynerchuk or a Brené Brown or somebody, you can create your own curated pieces of content based upon content they've done, right? So there's a lot of search volume around their names. There's just a lot of opportunities, I think, to do things like that with people or events. So I love that you did that, and it's a great piece of content. So, as we wrap things up, tell the listeners where they can find you online, and then if there's anywhere in the real world that they might be able to meet you as well.
You can find me at massivekontent.com with a K. Under Twitter, the URL. I'm on LinkedIn under Jason Thibault. I think I grabbed that. And if you want more fun type Twitter stuff, non-marketing, also Jason Thibault.
Great.
And you can find me in Montreal. I'm available for coffee, lunch, beers, whatever in Montreal.
Excellent. So I'll put all that stuff in the show notes, and definitely make sure to say hi to Jay out there online. Jay, thank you so much for joining us on Experts on the Wire, and we'll talk to everyone next time.